Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar. This is led by the NAWI NextGen program, which is composed of early career researchers, grad students, and postdocs. And today's topic is focused on water works, a day in the life of a water professional. And so I think a lot of us have general ideas about what each career path entails, whether that be an academic position or in industry. But when we think about what we would be doing in the day-to-day, we're not really sure what that would entail. For example, how many meetings would we have? How flexible is the schedule? How many people are on our team? And these day-to-day interactions are really what makes up a large portion of your career. And so we wanted to go into detail on those today. We have 5 excellent panelists who come from diverse parts of the water industry. And so we have Ed, Jeff, James, Raphael, and Shelley. And I'm going to start with an initial question so they can introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about their role in the water industry. And so we'll start with Jeff. And so can you describe what water industry you work in and what is your role currently?
Certainly, and thank you, Hannah. Great to see everybody here today. My name is Jeff McCutcheon. I'm a professor at the University of Connecticut in the Chemical and Biomolecular Engineering Department. I've been a professor for 16 years. And in that time, my focus has been on developing new kinds of membranes for water treatment in a variety of fields. We've also started to move outside of water a little bit as well. And so the role that I play in the water sector and the water industry is really one as an educator and mentor of undergraduate and graduate students. And so I have students that come through my lab and they go out and become professionals. I also, of course, teach in classrooms, with everyone on here has been in one. At a research university, I think one of the primary roles that I have is as a researcher and mentor to young researchers. And so that involves operating a lab, raising money to fund research in that lab, and of course, disseminating that information rapidly and easily so that everyone else can see what we're doing and to spread that knowledge. I think it's one of the primary roles that we play as academics. And as kind of a side note, academics like myself also have the opportunity to start companies and generate technology and IP. That's something that I'm doing. You'll find a lot of people in my field who also do that. Professors like Eric Hook and David Jasby at UCLA and others, and have also pursued those paths. So I'd be happy to talk about any of those things related to the academic profession.
Great, thank you for that introduction, Jeff. Next, can we go to James? Can you describe what water industry you work in and what your role is?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Good to be on the conference call. I have a slightly different background. So early in my career, I was in management consulting, helping companies grow strategically. So developing strategic plans, assessing addressable markets, addressing technology and trying to find out the best place for that technology. I then sold my soul for a number of years and joined the investment banking circuit, where I actually used my consulting skills to help companies raise capital. So how do you position a really innovative company and technology full of very smart people in front of people who want to fund it? So, how do you match and how do you ensure that you're appropriately positioned? 12 years ago, I left the banking scene and set up my own consulting company called Novaram. And essentially what we do is help high growth water technology businesses. So we only focus on the water sector, and we help companies between pre-Series A up to Series B find a place in the market, find credible cornerstone clients, grow, and also attract capital at the right point in time. In respect of my day job, it is turbulent. It changes all the time. Generally on calls with either technology companies and my clients, understanding what they're trying to do in certain sectors, with clients of my clients, in respect of how they can solidify contracts and grow, and also with capital providers. So how can we access various types of capital, whether it's government funded or private capital, to help grow these amazing ideas. I'm based in Houston, and I also have a connection with the Rice Water Institute. So I'm seeing a lot of innovative technology come out of Texas and Houston. But pleased to be part of the conversation. Happy to answer any questions that come up.
Thanks, James. To be honest, until I came across your profile, I had no idea that a water-focused role like yours existed. So I'm really excited to hear more about that. Next, can we go to Shelley? Can you describe what your water industry is and what your role is there?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Hannah, for including me. My name is Shelley Mosby, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of a company called Sustainable H2O Technologies. We have been working on this project for 10 years. Our anniversary will be this fall. My background is in marketing and advertising and project management. Our company has a new water technology, and our company was founded on a belief that a smarter water solution is what is necessary in order to start dealing with the water woes that are presenting themselves. My day-to-day, we're still considered an early, I would say a startup company. So as a CEO, I do everything from signing contracts to picking up the trash. We're a very, very small team. And there's a lot that goes into introducing this new technology. And one of our parts that's been very interesting is that we process any type of liquid. Our technology processes any type of liquid. So I haven't to date been able to come up with a industry that does not use water. So it's been challenging yet exciting because we can really help all different types of industries. So learning to have our horse blinders on and take this project forward has been one of the challenges, but it's a very new disruptive technology that is going to make a lot of changes. But I'm happy to answer any questions that come up.
Thanks, Shelley, for that introduction. The diversity of tasks in your day is really interesting, I think, to a lot of people, that it would be really exciting to be like doing so many different things over the course. So excited to hear more about that.
Thank you.
And then next, Ed, can you introduce yourself and talk about maybe what water industries you've worked in and what your role has been?
Yeah, for sure. My name's Ed Verderose. I'm the Vice President of Business Development for Industrial Steam Boiler out of New York City. And where we're not particularly a water industry, we do work with water every day. So we're a boiler manufacturer, right? And we're either heating hot water in hydronic systems to provide for comfort heating, or we're turning water into steam and then transferring that heat for process such as food and beverage or other industries, right, that utilize steam. Since water is an integral part of what it is that we do, it touches everything that we do. The chemistry of water and how it interacts with our equipment and the components in the system is so important, from a chemical balance to an oxygen content to a pH, to make sure that the water doesn't become aggressive and thereby corrosive. So, every single day, I'm faced with issues that revolve around water. So I'm so honored to be able to be here with this room full of people that are so much smarter than me, and to learn from them how, to make this easier. It's the issues with water can be so difficult to solve, unless you have the background and the understanding. The industry that I'm in, the boiler industry that I'm in, is niche. It's esoteric. It's unknown, but it uses everything and it touches everything, and it's an offshoot. So the understanding of the basis of water is so important to what it is that we do. So I'm here to take your viewers and your listeners into the area beyond understanding what the actual water molecular chemistry is into its application in industry, and then where you go from there. And I'll be happy to answer those questions.
Thanks so much, Ed. I don't know about the part about being smarter than you, but I think we're all very interested to hear about the boiler industry, which is definitely an industry a lot of us don't interface with on a daily basis, but has an integral water aspect to it. And then finally, last but not least, Raphael, can you please introduce yourself and talk about what industry you're in and what your role is?
Sure. Thanks, Hannah, and good morning to everyone. Well, I started working in the water sector, working at the utilities in non-revenue water programs. Then I got enrolled in a PhD where I focused my research on wastewater treatment plant modeling and techno-economic assessment. Then I joined in consulting, where where I am currently working at BlueTech Research doing some consulting. My role is senior research analyst, where I focus something like kind of like what James used to do. I conduct some market analysis. I do some technical due diligence, helping companies to grow either organic or inorganically. But also we also work on conducting some technology horizon scans. So we track innovation in the water sector, and well, we help companies to select technologies, either the ones that are coming up or sometimes either commodity-sized technologies. Lately, a lot around happening in the PFAS treatment, either the removal or the destruction, nutrient recovery, or industrial wastewater treatment, semiconductor, food and beverage. It's pretty wide. So the goal here is to provide a market or technology insights in a clear way to guide the decision-making process of either utilities, investors, technology providers, or any other stakeholder in the industry.
Great, thanks, Raphael. We get a lot of questions about from people who are interested in research, but maybe they don't want to go the academic route, but they also don't want to work directly for a company. And it sounds like your role might be something that they would be interested in.
Yeah, thanks.
So I think next we'll get more into the details of what a typical day in a life looks like for each of you. And so because Shelley, you already started to mention how diverse your days look like, could you walk through what a typical day might look like at your job? I know each day is very different, but you could describe maybe what fraction of the day you spend in meetings versus working independently, how flexible that schedule is, do you work remotely, things like that.
Okay, great. So typical day, as I was saying before, the day is, you need to be very flexible because I can have a lot of meetings, sending people things that they've requested from us, more information regarding our company. We're still in the middle of a cap raise, so that's another piece of the puzzle that I'm responsible for. So I'm constantly trying to push the business forward and introducing us, to people who might be interested in becoming part of our company. I also deal with, as I brought up before, project management. So I have to make sure that we're constantly moving forward. So the truck drivers, making sure they're getting my product to where it needs to be, working with my team to strategize next steps that might be beneficial. We work with consulting firms, and I do a lot of remote work. We have a home office. We're in Greensboro, North Carolina. But it's never just a 9 to 5. I can honestly say that it's a constant here and there. Trying to think what else I do. It's really, I have to stress the flexibility part of it. And it's really the communication and following up and everything is very, very important to keep people interested and keep the ball rolling. So flexible, yes. And for me, it's very diverse.
Yeah, that is very interesting, Shelley. And you mentioned your team. How many people are on your core team?
So I have four, I would say. I have four. So I have myself, and I have a lead business developer, and I have an engineer, and then a chief engineer as well, who's also one of my co-founders. So we're, like I said, we're a very small team. And yes, my title might be CEO, but the only thing I'm not allowed to do is pick up a wrench and get near the machine. That I'm not allowed to. But everything else I handle.
Yeah, that sounds like it would be very interesting to have different tasks every day. And one thing maybe you didn't mention, are there travel opportunities? Like, how much do you travel as CEO?
Um, I travel pretty often. A lot of times, I think after COVID too, everyone got used to, Teams and Zoom and things like that. But I really find that once the introduction has happened, being in person with going to meet with these people that are interested in us and potential investors, meeting with them in person really does make a difference. So anytime that we can, we try to get those meetings, schedule those meetings in person if we can. So there's pretty much travel. I travel pretty
Yeah,
often.
nice. I think our viewers, some of them might be interested in careers that have travel opportunities.
Yeah,
So that'd be good.
it could be fun. We we did a red eye last night, so I don't know about that part of it, but in general, I enjoy traveling. So if it's especially if younger audience, uh, newer business people, but I think that would enjoy that.
Yeah, thanks, Shelley. Jeff, I know you also have a role that has many hats. Can you talk about what a day in your life looks like and how flexible your schedule is, how much you work remotely versus in your office?
Sure. Well, I'm home in my home office today, so there is the opportunity to work remotely, which is very, very helpful if you have young children, which is why I'm home today. But the joke, the old adage for being a faculty member is, it's the most flexible job you'll ever have. You can work any 80 hours a week that you want. I don't actually subscribe to that now. I think that your day-to-day changes dramatically from when you're a junior faculty to when you're a full professor. And um, when you're a junior faculty, your day-to-day is really focused on just trying to figure out what your job actually is, because no one really trains you for it. Being in grad school and being a postdoc does not train you to be a faculty. It doesn't train you to teach, doesn't train you to manage groups, doesn't train you to write proposals. You might get some experience in those areas, but the formalized training in graduate school is about being a scientific expert in a narrow field. That's what the PhD is all about. And now it's sort of growing into more contextualized understanding, which you learn right away as a junior faculty, that you need to have good context of your work, and it requires you to be a broad set of experts, which requires time. And so as a junior faculty, most of your time is spent preparing your classes, your lectures, if you haven't done them before. Don't spend too much time on that, because you can end up really hurting the things that are promotable, but we can talk about that offline perhaps. The writing of the first proposals is really difficult, because you've never done one before on your own, right? You maybe had a PI assistant or something like that. And so those first proposals take a lot of time as you struggle through crafting them and understanding the mountains of paperwork that are required to submit any proposal, and to work with new staff people in the submission of those proposals. That's what a lot of my time is still today, but I'm just much more efficient at it now than I was 16 years ago. By the time you reach, and you're also training your first graduate students, these people who come from possibly very far away, they have to learn, take classes, and then you're reliant on them to make productive decisions about your research. You have to work with them. So you'll spend probably 20 to 25% of your time with your students, trying to figure out how to help them be better, more productive, and sort of craft them into future PhDs and even undergraduate BS majors. So these are all part of the day-to-day life. As you progress later in your career, your time shifts a little bit. You'll spend less time teaching because you're a seasoned educator. You'll spend more time doing things like team building, because as you become a more senior faculty member, a senior researcher, you're expected to lead larger efforts. No more single principal investigator grants. It's going to be multiple investigator grants, and you're leading those. You're building teams. I probably spend several hours a week just in networking online, just making calls and talking to people and reconnecting with people that I may not have talked to for a long time, or having a conversation with a company or a consultant or someone, and just to kind of shoot the breeze a little bit, see where the lay of the land is. Gather as much information as possible. You do that differently as a senior faculty than you do as a young faculty, but commit time to that. And that's what I definitely do too. And this event is part of that effort for me as well, because this kind of stuff is great. It's fun. It creates lots of interesting ideas, which is what being a faculty member is all about. You have a diversity of things that you do during your day. Therefore, you get a lot of different perspectives on your field, on technology, but also on the other aspects of your job, like teaching, service, leadership, and mentorship. So I can't say that I don't work 80 hours a week anymore. I don't do that. The flexibility of the job is unmatched in industry. I travel more than I want to. I don't like traveling. I would prefer never to travel if I didn't have to, but it's part of the job. You have to go to conferences and speak and do seminars. And once I'm there, I like it, but I hate being away from the family. And so it's tough. But from a family perspective, it's also a very flexible career, which allows you to see your kids, to take care of aging parents, lots of different flexible options you have as a faculty member that may not be offered to you in the private sector, or in the, I would say, the non-academic sector.
Thanks, Jeff, for that detailed look. I think the role of a professor and the prospect of being faculty is an intimidating career path for a lot of people, but the benefits you highlighted that they might not find in other industries, I think that's helpful. One question I have for you. So you talked about how faculty members often don't have the training when they first start. As postdocs, you're not trained to do all these things. Do you have any advice for grad students or postdocs who might be looking at that career path for things they could do now to better set themselves up for success when they start?
Probably the best option for them is to do postdocs with very different types of advisors. We mimic our advisors typically when we become professors and lab managers and principal investigators. And I was very fortunate to have a great advisor who was attentive and provided all sorts of guidance and information about how to do this job. But that is a single perspective. Having multiple perspectives is actually really interesting. Do you have an advisor who keeps time cards, or do you have an advisor who's laissez-faire? Like, do you have an advisor who expects you to go to group meeting on a Saturday morning, or do you have an advisor that doesn't have a group meeting? Like, perspectives are important, and the job description of a faculty member is really long when you read them online when you're applying for a job, and it says you're supposed to build a world-class research program and build a phenomenal educational program, but that's so vague. Like, what does that mean? And so more experience is better. That can delay the launch of your career a little bit, but it will give you more skills and more perspectives that are useful to you. And that's probably the best advice that I have, but also talk to your colleagues, have coffee with them. Everyone in my department is so very, very different in the way they operate, and I get a lot of really interesting tidbits from them. I can take their best practices that mesh well with mine and incorporate them into my day-to-day, and that makes my job more effective. It makes me more effective. So just talk to people. If you're an introvert, just do one-on-ones. If you're an extrovert, do large groups, whatever you'd like to do, but talk to people and be engaging with your colleagues, because that helps you become a better professor.
Thanks. That's super helpful advice. I think the note about introverts, many of us who are introverts find multiple meetings a day very scary, but the note about them being one-on-one, I think makes it a little more approachable. So I think we'll switch gears a little bit and go to Ed. Can you tell us what a day in your life looks like? And what fraction of the day you might spend in meetings, how flexible your schedule is? Do you travel?
Sure, all of that. Yeah, for sure. Every day is different. It's a surprise. Every morning you wake up, you're posed with the opportunity to build a heating plant for a school or for a hospital, to put together a pasteurization facility for a dairy farm or a dairy facility, or a brew house, for a brew house for a beer manufacturer. So and all those different pieces and parts that come together. water and just trying to introduce, it's in everything, right? It's water goes to wine and it goes to beer and there's just so much that's happening in the course of the day. I would tell you that my schedule is very flexible around predetermined milestones. So I have things I have to do. So as part of where I go to market and to Jeff's point, the relationship collateral that he spoke to, people have to trust what I'm bringing to them. They have to trust that what I'm going to recommend to them, that I'm going to design, manufacture, install, commission, is going to satisfy the requirements of their needs. And so to that point, I travel quite a bit, and I love to travel. I understand that sometimes the lines are long and the airplanes are crowded, for sure. But the places that you get to go and where you land and the people that you get to meet, and to Shelley's point, you can't do this. This thing, this camera thing, it doesn't carry your energy. You can't get the energy across. You can't get the trust. And the people who are going to make you successful and recommend you to their friends and to their groups are the people that you take care of. So you need to travel to get to do that. But it really is. It's such an exciting day. You just spin the wheel and then you see what you're going to do today, and then you pour yourself into it, and then the next day might not be so crazy. It might be a little more designed, because now so we're building a heating plant. How big is the school? How many students? Are we going to take care of showers, or that kind of thing? We're going to process poultry. How many do we have to process a day to make sure that the requirements of the plant are satisfied? And there's some calculations. So in my group, I have 6 people, and those 6 people really, without naming their names, are funding. Right? You need money, so we need money. We need engineering, because I'm constantly liaison and intermediating between the plant and the corporate engineers and our engineers to make sure there's marketing and advertising. So those are two separate people. They talk. Sometimes sales, marketing, and advertising people communicate. It's great when they do. Sometimes they don't, but communication is key. And then sales, right? I'm over that, and then maintenance. So when you design something and you sell it, you have to engineer it to meet the needs. The shiny brochure has already done its job. Then you have to install it, commission it, and then you have to maintain it. So really, it's a handoff. It's full communications every single day, but it's flexible in that I'm working across the country and sometimes across the world, and I'm making phone calls. For maybe like Jeff said, pick any 8 hours you want. But some days it's an 18-hour day because I'm speaking to Germany and Hawaii, and some days it's a shorter day. So that's a day. It's a long one, and sometimes it's a short one, but it's a day.
Thanks, Ed. Yeah, I like your analogy about spinning the wheel. That makes it sound a lot of fun. I was wondering what training you had that kind of enabled you to do this career, and if you have any advice for viewers on the call who might want to go into this industry, what type of training they would need or skills.
Yeah, so just get out there and do it, right? Every part that you do adds to your foundation. I've been in the boiler industry my entire career, but I started out as a burner service technician. And then with the burner service technician came to repairs, and that's where I ran into the repairs to the water softeners and to the RO systems and the membranes and the differential pressures across the system to make sure that they're operating properly. All of these, DI water, demineralized water, and RO water, and what does that mean? Heavy water and light water. What does that mean specifically? Where does it fit? And then after understanding that, I became a design engineer. So I began to take the bits and pieces that I knew from the iron burn filters to the water softeners to the condensate polishers, and put all that stuff together so that when the flow, you do the ultimate analysis of where the water comes from to where it turns into steam or where it becomes hot water and you're treating the system. Now you're starting to understand, you're designing that. So now you have the understanding of all the pieces and parts that fit together. So when someone comes to you and they say, well, hey, what do I do here? You know what part to look at, and you know what experts, to reach out to and touch, right? These smart people in the room, the ones I'm talking about, these people are the people that I communicate with every single day when I have problems I don't understand and I need the who else says so. So then once you get to the point where you understand all of the systems, now you can talk to the people who also need to know what you know and do what you do so that they can further their experiences to their customer base, put your product in, support your product, and be confident that what they're telling their clients is going to happens because you're bred in it. It's in your DNA. You're brought up in it. So get out there and do what it is you want to do, and don't feel like it's not happening fast enough. It took 40 years from the first wrench that I turned until a point where I could work with leaders and giants in industry. So it takes time, for absolute sure, but every single thing you do builds on something else. Does that help?
Yeah, that's super helpful. I think I think a lot of our viewers are in their younger phases of their career, and when we're in our 20s and 30s, it can feel like a huge gap to get to careers like you all have, and we don't understand how to close that gap. But just starting with like what we can do next, and just getting all the experience we can, I think that's a very helpful strategy, and it makes it seem like a bit easier to get to where you all are. And I also liked your comment about relying on your team. I think sometimes we feel like we have to do everything, but you all are on teams where you're relying on other people to help you. And that's also a good strategy, I think.
Yeah. Two things. First thing is, to your point, time will close that gap for you. You don't have to do a thing about it. If you stop, the clock's going to keep on ticking. And the second thing is, know what you can't do and delegate that to your team. So if you can't do it, there's somebody in your team who can. Let them do it. And then all of a sudden it becomes easy.
Yeah, that's super helpful. I think we'll go to James next. James, can you talk about what your typical day looks like and how much you travel, what team size you work on?
Yeah, sure. Appreciate it. I've enjoyed listening to the other panelists talk. Before I get into my day-to-day, just one thing I wanted to mention that makes working in the water sector or any sector easier is just finding that passion. So, it took me a number of years to gravitate towards the water sector, but ultimately, hence the accent, I grew up in Australia. It's a very water scarce region. We used to shower with buckets, collect the water, and then water the garden. When we used to brush our teeth, my mom used to tell us, only use 2 minutes of water. So, it's kind of was inbuilt into me in respect of water. So, my passion and what I'm trying to do these days is enhance water access. So, how do we actually create technology to ensure that all people and businesses have access to water? And how do we make sure that water is of a quality that can be used for drinking or can be used for companies? So I think that evolves, but when you find your passion, I think double down on it. If there's something that you really like doing, listen to yourself and double down. Talk to as many people as you can around that passion. Network as much as you can around it. Do the long hours up front, and then it'll make it easier going forward. In respect to my day-to-day, I split it into 4 buckets. So there's either planning, pitching, executing, or marketing. So the planning, if I have a client, it's in respect to their strategy. So what are they trying to do, and how can I add value to their go-to-market strategy in respect of deploying assets, finding the right people, finding clients, assessing whether there's actually a need for a technology. The biggest impediment for companies in the growth sector, technology sector, is the technology just doesn't solve a problem. It solves a pilot, but it has to solve something that's highly scalable. So that's part of the thinking around that. Pitching, I help clients get in front of their clients, get in front of funders, and how do we actually distill their messaging into a very simple message? You might have something that's very complicated. I'm not an engineer. I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but the litmus test that I tell my clients to pitch to is pretend there's a 10-year-old child in the room and you're pitching to that child. That's the level of the technology that you have to convey. How do you actually convey this in a very simple way to entice that person to want to know more? Execution. So once we do have a program in place or a strategy in place, it's all around bringing the team together and executing it. So a lot of my time as well is spent on project management, or my team is spent on project management. So how do we ensure execution excellence for the client? How do we ensure that the objectives that we set in the strategy component are actually achieved? And then the last is marketing. You have to be out there. So in respect of travel, I travel at least 1 week a month. Conferences. Next week, the World Water Week is on in Stockholm. Blue Tech Research is going to be there. A lot of the water people are going to be there. And that's a week of meetings and connections. So really finding out what new technology is out there, where the water sector is going, how do you market yourself and your clients, and how do you take away innovation from that conference as well? I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, that did. It sounds like a lot of your days are spent in meetings with people. Do you have time to work independently? And if for someone who maybe is intrigued by your career but doesn't enjoy all-day meetings with people, do you have any advice for them?
Definitely. I think in the earlier years, I mean, a lot of my time was spent in front of the laptop, analyzing data, analyzing information, and preparing reports and viewpoints. And then within a smaller team, having people challenge the viewpoints. So that, yeah, I think I would say earlier on, it's the matrix is flipped. So early stages, it's probably 80% in front of a laptop. Research, in-depth analysis, 20% marketing and people. And then as you progress in your career, it flips around. It's 80% marketing, people, pitching, contracts, Zoom calls like this, and really relying upon those people in your team with the experience to help add to what you're doing.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm hearing a common thread amongst all of you about relying on your team, which is really helpful advice. And then I think we'll move on for the sake of time to Raphael. Can you talk a bit about your day-to-day schedule and how flexible it is, if you have any travel opportunities, and how that, I think you said that you had done a PhD, and how that compares to like a day in the life as a PhD student?
Sure. Well, I believe there's no typical day in consulting. Varies a lot, but it also depends on the project you are working on and the phase of the project you are working on. If you are kicking it off, well, basically it goes into planning. If you are executing it, well, it's gathering all the data and distilling all the data into like actionable insights. If you are closing it, it's basically spending time on writing the report. I think roughly 20-30% of my time is spent in meetings. So either client check-ins, whenever you hit a roadblock, well, you need to consult some experts, so you need to interview some experts, or or have internal meetings to overcome that roadblock. Then it's getting into the work. I think it will vary depending on the project you're working on. For example, right now I'm working on a project related to resource recovery, and it's pretty wide, either from looking at anaerobic digestion or nutrient recovery or even water reclamation. So then you need to look at, when selecting technologies, you need to look into patents. You need to gather data from the plant owners, assess the data, ask them questions, receive the information so you can notice what technologies they can select. If they ask for more in detail information, you can spend time building techno-economic models. And then, well, after getting all that information, you need to summarize it and the most clear way either in a report or a slide deck, and then prepare to share it with the client. In terms of flexibility, well, I think it's very flexible. I am remote. It's technically flexible because sometimes we work with international clients. I'm normally based in Mexico. But if you need to have a client call with a Japanese client or Australian client late or early in the morning, well, you need to be there and ready to present the information to them. In terms of travel, it's periodic. It's mostly attending conferences, either to present or to attend like a conference like as WebTech. Or also, depending on the project, you might need to do some traveling to attend an industrial facility, right? So that's mostly it.
Yeah, that is interesting. It sounds your daily tasks probably sound most familiar to a lot of our listeners because they're kind of analogous to things we do as researchers already. So that might be comforting to some of them. I was wondering, since some of these tasks are familiar, what is the biggest challenge you face in your work?
For me,
Yes.
well, I think it depends on the project. Like sometimes when there's like a really hard question to answer, well, it's basically deal with inconsistent data, right? They might come to ask you something, they will share data. Data is not that useful. And eventually, well, you need to get additional data or produce data, either like synthetic data, so you can actually manage with it. And also, whenever there's some difficult task, well, you need to gather the right expert to ask them the appropriate questions. So you need to become knowledgeable on that topic. So the conversation with the expert is actually useful. Otherwise, it will be just asking some random questions and not getting any insights from it.
Yeah, I think that's helpful insight. It sounds like you also rely a lot on other people when you need, when you're not sure the answer to the things.
Yeah, exactly. And well, one advice is don't be afraid to ask questions, right? And also that there's an expert in every area. Even if you're doing a PhD, you are becoming that expert. But that only covers a really small fraction of what is out there. So you need to contact any other people as well.
Yeah, I think that's great advice to reach out and don't be afraid to ask questions. And I think that's an excellent segue into our audience asking some questions. So I know we've had a couple in the chat, and I think those are being answered in the chat. So if anyone has a question, feel free to drop it in the chat, and you can also raise your hand and ask it by like unmuting, but I can call on you if you raise your hand. And so feel free to use the raise hand button if you have a question for any of our panelists. And I realized that I might not be able to see who has their hand raised on the screen I'm on, so feel free to just unmute as well and ask if you have a question. While we're waiting on maybe audience questions, people are probably still, oh, we have one now. So Brian would like to know where you get your water news/data, whether that's a newspaper, internet, or a special secret government website. So maybe Raphael, you were just talking about data. Can you answer that one?
Well, there are many public data sets. Depends on the area that you're looking at. Well, EPA reports a lot. You can actually see the wastewater characterization of a facility if you just dig into the ECHO database. The other is actually news, but there are lots of data sets. Look into like international associations, and you might find data, for example, for web, there's some good data sets regarding anaerobic digestion units, and you can access the data. So in general, it's out there. You just need to conduct the appropriate search query in Google, and eventually you will find something. Whenever you don't find it, you start asking questions, and somebody will actually guide you into the data. Yeah, depends. And if it's from an actual wastewater treatment plant, well, you ask them to share the data, and they will share it. Of course, this is like convenient for us because they are asking us to solve some issues, so they are pretty willing to share the data with us. But also there are some what do you call it, like industry reports from the European Union or many other things where you can access information and see what are the common practices in an industry. So mostly that.
James, did you have something to add? I see you unmuted.
Yeah,
I
I
was
just
hoping
wanted
you
to
would
add.
touch on that.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to Raphael's points. I just had two comments. First is Perplexity and AI is getting much better in respect of deep research. So I use 4 different AI systems to do my own research, where the AI provides a source, so you can actually go back to the source and have a look at the original document. I think it's getting quite good. Previously, spent hours Googling. Now you can actually get what you want pretty quickly, running the right scripts. In addition, myself and my team spend an hour every day. We've got 15 different news searches that we've set up in Google Alerts, and we spend an hour every day reviewing those for the top articles that are coming through. And that helps us see where the sector may be going in respect to technology, funding, new innovation, etc. And then someone on my team actually consolidates that information and puts it on a LinkedIn news stream called Blue Loop. So I'll send the link around. It's more general water news. It's not deep research news, but if you just want something high level, you can read it in 10 minutes every morning. That might be helpful as well.
Yeah, that would be great if you can drop a link to that in the chat. I think a lot of the viewers would love to use that. So the next question is from Akashmi, and I think I'm going to ask Shelly. Shelly, what do you enjoy or love the most in your current role?
That's a good question. I think meeting new people, which gives me the opportunity to be exposed to so many different industries. I've learned so much along the way in this journey. And another thing, since we have such it's a very unique technology, watching a large room of people and watching, after we present and we go over the technology, watching the light bulb go off is always very, it's a great feeling. It's exciting. We're getting our message across. They're understanding the technology. They're seeing that we're ahead of the curve, that we're something different, something new that's coming across. So I think those 3 things make me keep me going. How about that?
Yeah, I think we're all, when we're choosing careers, trying to find like how we would be fulfilled by that career. And so those 3 points are helpful. And there was another question that came in that I'd love to hear your response to, and that's what advice you would give to your past self at an earlier stage in your career.
That's interesting because I've kind of done a lot of different things. I don't know, because probably have more, I'm going to use the word education. I don't mean actually like going back to school, but learning more deeper dive, especially as I got into this career in the water industry, which was fairly new to me. So I think that's probably where I would start. If that's yeah, I think that's probably where I'd start.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I think Jeff, I'll also ask you that question. So imagine yourself as I see we have some PhD students on the call. As a first year PhD student, what advice do you give to yourself?
Well, I never wanted to be a professor when I was a PhD student. And I remember the moment that I wanted to be one. It was when I was at a group meeting. And I finally had like cracked something. And my advisor had recognized that I had done something novel. And I'm like, oh, that's what this is all about. I think probably realize, I think what I would like to have given myself advice is that realize that for every success that you see with somebody, there's probably been 10 failures behind the scenes that they don't know about or that aren't discussed. And that grit and resiliency is probably the single most important trait you can have as an academic, because for the most part, people are going to constantly tell you that you're doing bad at your job. A rejection on a proposal. Like I've had $8 million in proposals rejected this year. That stings, but you have to be able to get up and take that punch and basically keep moving. And I think that people who are in the startup space see this as well. And to be able to, and I would just tell myself that, just because you might have a rough patch doesn't mean that you won't come out better on the other side. And so that's what I would probably tell most of my PhD students and most PhD students on there, is that taking a punch is not a big deal. You'll be able to get up and dust yourself off and keep going.
Yeah, that's really helpful. I think there's been this new trend where people are making failure CVs and listing all of their failures. And I think a lot of people have a very long failure CV that you don't.
It's my most popular post I've ever made on LinkedIn was my failure post, and it was the one that got the most play and most discussion I've ever had in LinkedIn in all the years I've been on it. So I think we should celebrate our failures, and it helps everyone to realize, oh, everyone's failing. That's great. So like that's a real helpful thing to see, and you learn a lot from those failures, hopefully. Sometimes they're not your fault and you learn absolutely nothing from it, and all it does is make you bitter and angry, and I understand that, and I think that's an okay feeling to have for a short while, but then you have to move on past it.
Yeah, I agree. I think the last question we'll touch on, I'm going to pull on something I see in the chat. So Kristen had asked if there's any advice that you'd share with the past self, and James had responded to find a mentor. James, could you comment on how people might find a mentor and like a strategy for how they would seek out mentorship in their career?
Yeah, it's something I wished I did a little more of that. I think in the early stages, a mentor would be someone that you've worked with, that you admire, that you have a connection with. Because they really need to be someone who you can interact with, but also give hard advice. So, it's not going to be your best friend. It may be a senior person that you've worked with previously. It might be someone in a different sector or someone you admire. I think the first one, or the easiest pathway, is just somebody within your own community. And community could be university, could be people that you know, it could be a relation, and start from there, because you don't have a mentor for life. They change as you change. So as you evolve, you might say to the mentor, look, I'd really love to have something for 12 months. This is the way I'd like to structure it. A meeting every 2 weeks, a meeting a month. There'll be certain questions I want honest feedback on. And at the end of that time, you may say, we want to extend or change. So it continually evolves as your career or who you are as a person evolves as well. But it's normally within the circles that you operate in, where I found my success with mentors.
Yeah, I think that's helpful. And I think a lot of our viewers are probably at the stage where they are starting to seek out those mentors. Besides maybe their research advisor, I think that's an important aspect is you need other people besides your research mentor. And I guess this is a great segue. So first, I want to thank all of the panelists for their time and their responses. It's been extremely helpful for me, and I'm sure it's been very helpful for the viewers as well. But we do want to promote some additional opportunities that you have to connect with the NAWI NextGen program. And one of those, which I'll promote right now, is the mentorship program, which we have. And so in the NAWI NextGen mentorship program, we pair a small group of mentees with mentors. These can be from both the academic sector and then also the industrial sector, depending on what type of mentorship you're seeking out. And so if that's something you would be interested in, either as a mentor or a mentee, you'll see an email coming out in the next few weeks asking you to fill out a short form for that. And so I think that's a great way to connect with some of the possible mentors that NAWI has access to. And that would be touch on James's last point about finding a mentor. And so I think we'll close with a brief note from Ron about some other opportunities in the NextGen program.
Thanks, Hannah. Hi, everybody. First, thank you very much for our panelists. To our panelists, I found it super interesting, and I'm ready to switch my own career. So I look forward to following in many of your footsteps. My name is Ron Swanson. I am the chair of NAWI's NextGen committee. I'm with Sustainable H2O, the company that Shelley is the CEO for. And while I joked earlier, while we are a very high-tech technology, I can't seem to be getting the camera working on my own computer. So sorry about that. No, I do not look like Nick Offerman, if any of you are Parks and Rec fans, but that really is my real name. The NextGen committee, I can't speak highly enough about how cool it is and what it does for folks that are new to water. It's a committee that's open to anyone and everyone that is working professionally within the world of water for up to 10 years. But it also includes students, graduate students, and postdocs as well. There are 3 primary components to what we try to accomplish each year. Hannah just mentioned the mentorship program, and each year it keeps on growing and getting better and better. Hannah is specifically taking that over this year. I highly encourage everyone on this call to consider either being a mentor, hint, hint to our panelists, or being a mentee, so to speak. And those are those who would like to follow on some of the advice of some of our panelists, and that is to seek a little help and guidance from others that are already in the world of where you would like to be. So please consider doing that. We also have what we call our blog spotlight, where many of us are involved in writing or research on different projects. We would like to help promote that. NAWI has a professional writer on board that will
Did Ron cut out for everyone or just me?
Oh, I think it's for
Everyone? Okay, I'll finish what Ron was saying, and that is that there's a professional writer who will write your blog post, and so you just do a short interview with them. So it's a little commitment. And then we'll end. Wajia, can you just say hi and introduce your role?
Hey everyone, this is Wajiha, and I'm serving as a vice chair for NAWI NextGen. And I'm majorly responsible for the blog post which Ron was just discussing. And it was a great discussion, and thank you everyone for joining.
Great, thanks Vijaya. And thanks again to all our panelists and also to all the participants for joining. And I think we'll close there. So be on the lookout for more email announcements and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
everyone.
Thanks. Take care. Bye.
Bye.